What if I told you that the single smartest investment you could make in your backyard has nothing to do with stocks, savings accounts, or side hustles? It has everything to do with what you plant in the ground right now. Most people have no idea that while they're buying produce at the grocery store every single week, there are trees out there that will feed your family for 50, 75, even 100 years. Trees our great-grandparents planted and never stopped harvesting. Trees that modern agriculture forgot entirely. Stick around, because number 8 on this list has been feeding families for over 4,000 years and produces fruit so sweet that ancient cultures used it as a substitute for sugar. And number 17 was considered so valuable in colonial America that mature trees were written into wills and passed down like property. If you want practical, proven wisdom about growing your own food every week, hit that subscribe button right now and ring the bell. You do not want to miss what's coming. Let's get into it. Here are 20 food trees that will produce for decades, ranked from extraordinary to absolutely life-changing. 1. Fig, the gift that keeps giving for a century. Ficus carica has been cultivated for over 11,000 years. Ancient Greeks, Romans, and Egyptians didn't just eat figs, they built their food security around them. A single mature fig tree yields 30 to 50 pounds of fruit per season. Many varieties produce 2 crops a year, and a healthy fig tree routinely lives past 100 years. There are documented fig trees in the Mediterranean producing fruit for over 200 years without significant care. Modern science confirms figs are extraordinarily dense in soluble fiber, calcium, potassium, magnesium, and B vitamins. Dried figs store for months without refrigeration, concentrating those minerals further. Traditional use: fresh figs at peak ripeness for immediate nutrition, dried figs year-round as portable food that sustained traders across continents. Figs got overlooked because people assumed they only grew in warm climates, but cold hardy varieties like Chicago Hardy thrive in Zone 6 with minimal protection. Think of it as the tree that fed civilizations for thousands of years, just waiting for you to give it a spot in your yard. 2. Mulberry, the most productive tree you've never planted. If you could plant one tree for maximum food output per square foot, the mulberry is a serious contender. A mature Morris tree can produce hundreds of pounds of fruit in a single season, not tens of pounds. Hundreds. Berries ripen over weeks, giving you a continuous harvest rather than one overwhelming glut. Trees begin producing within 2 to 3 years and continue for 50 to 100 years. Modern research reveals mulberries are rich in anthocyanins, resveratrol, vitamin C, and iron. Studies on mulberry leaf extract show meaningful blood sugar regulating effects in people with type 2 diabetes. Traditional use: fresh berries straight from the tree and dried mulberries as a concentrated, sweet winter food. Mulberries got forgotten because fruiting trees stained driveways. People planted sterile ornamental varieties and lost one of the most generous food producers in the plant kingdom. Think of it as the tree that gives so abundantly you'll need the whole neighborhood to help harvest. 3. Persimmon, the American treasure hiding in plain sight. Diospyros virginiana, the American persimmon, is nearly indestructible once established. It tolerates drought, heavy clay, poor soils, and hard freezes that would kill most fruit trees. It lives 60 to 75 years or more, and produces without spraying, without fertilizing, and without significant intervention. The fruit ripens after first frost, exactly when most other food sources are exhausted. Persimmons are high in vitamins A and C, potassium, manganese, and dietary fiber. The tannins in unripe fruit have documented antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties. Traditional use: fresh, ripe persimmons in late fall, dried persimmons stored through winter without refrigeration, and persimmon bread as a frontier staple. American persimmons got sidelined by larger, more cosmetically uniform Asian varieties that shipped better. But the native tree outperforms imports in hardiness, longevity, and resilience. Think of it as the tree that fed this continent for centuries before anyone called it a superfood. 4. Pomegranate, the antioxidant powerhouse that outlives your house. Punica granatum trees routinely live for 200 years. There are documented pomegranates in the Mediterranean producing fruit continuously for over 300 years. When you plant one, you are making a decision that will outlast you. The tree reaches full productivity by year 7 to 10 and simply keeps going, generation after generation. Clinical trials have shown pomegranate juice reduces blood pressure, lowers LDL oxidation, and reduces inflammatory markers, including CRP. The polyphenol concentration outranks red wine, green tea, and blueberries. Traditional use: fresh arils, pressed juice, pomegranate molasses as a culinary and medicinal ingredient, and dried rind steeped as tea for gut infections. Pomegranates got overlooked because people assumed the climate was wrong, but cold-hardy varieties now thrive in Zone 7 and warmer, and container trees work well in colder climates. Think of it as the tree your great-great-grandchildren will still be harvesting from. 5. Olive, the tree that civilizations were built around. Individual olive trees in Greece, Italy, and Palestine are documented at over 1,000 years old and still producing fruit. Olea europaea has been cultivated for over 6,000 years. A productive tree yields 40 to 80 pounds of fruit per season, once fully mature, then produces reliably for centuries with minimal intervention. The Mediterranean diet built on olive oil has been linked in hundreds of clinical trials to reduced rates of heart disease, cancer, inflammation, and cognitive decline. The compound oleoanthol works similarly to ibuprofen at reducing inflammation. Traditional use: cold-pressed olive oil daily in cooking, cured whole olives as a mineral-rich, shelf-stable food, and olive leaf tea for blood pressure support. Olive trees got limited attention in American orchards because most people assumed the climate was wrong, but cold-hardy varieties like Arbequina thrive in zones 8 through 11. Think of it as the tree that doesn't just feed your family. It builds a legacy you can measure in centuries. 6. Loquat, the fruit tree your neighborhood has never heard of. While most gardeners wait for their peach trees to recover from a late frost, a loquat is already dropping pounds of golden fruit. Areobatria japonica blooms in winter and produces fruit in early spring, filling the hungry gap before almost any other fruit tree wakes up. Trees begin producing in 3 to 5 years, live 30 to 50 years, and require almost no maintenance. Modern research has found loquat leaf extracts show anti-inflammatory, blood sugar lowering, and antiviral properties. The fruit is rich in vitamin A as beta-carotene, potassium, and fiber. Traditional use: fresh loquat fruit in early spring and loquat leaf tea as a traditional remedy for coughs and respiratory inflammation across Chinese, Japanese, and Mediterranean folk medicine. Loquats got ignored because they're not in grocery stores. They bruise easily and don't ship well. For the home grower, that's an advantage. Think of it as the tree that rewards the person willing to look slightly beyond the obvious with fruit every spring that nobody else in the neighborhood is growing. 7. Elderberry, the immune-supporting tree your doctor is starting to notice. Sambucus nigra begins producing fruit within 2 to 3 years and is cold-hardy through zones 3 to 9. It thrives in wet soils, where other fruit trees fail. Plant 2 varieties for cross-pollination, and you will have more fruit than you can use. This tree has been used as food and medicine across Europe, North America, and Asia for thousands of years. Multiple randomized controlled trials have shown elderberry extract significantly reduces the duration and severity of influenza. A 2016 study published in Nutrients found travelers who took elderberry had shorter, less severe colds than placebo groups. Traditional use: cooked elderberry syrup as a daily immune tonic, elderberry jam and preserves, and elderflower cordial from the spring blossoms. Note: raw elderberries should always be cooked before consuming in quantity. Elderberries got sidelined because they don't fit the fresh supermarket model. But for the home gardener who processes their own food, a mature elder produces more than enough for a full year's supply of syrup and preserves. Think of it as the medicine cabinet that grows in your backyard. 8. Jujube, the 4,000-year-old fruit that tastes like an apple date. Here we are at number 8. Ziziphus jujuba has been cultivated in China for over 4,000 years and is mentioned in Chinese medical texts going back to 1000 BCE. Trees begin fruiting in 2 to 3 years, tolerate drought, alkaline soils, extreme heat, and cold down to zone 6, require no spraying, and live for 50 to 150 years, producing reliable annual crops throughout. Modern research shows jujube is extremely high in vitamin C, exceeding most citrus gram for gram. Specific saponins appear to modulate GABA receptors in ways that support sleep and reduce anxiety. Clinical research from China has documented improvements in sleep quality from jujube seed extract. Traditional use: fresh jujubes eaten straight from the tree, dried jujubes through winter, and jujube tea as a calming evening beverage. Jujubes got almost completely forgotten in American horticulture, dismissed as an exotic Asian specialty, but they grow beautifully across a wide range of American climates. Think of it as the ancient secret American gardeners are only just rediscovering, one that has fed families for 40 centuries and shows no signs of stopping. 9. Pawpaw, America's forgotten tropical fruit. Lewis and Clark survived on pawpaws. Indigenous communities across the eastern United States harvested them as a critical fall food source. And then the 20th century happened, and Asimina triloba, the largest edible fruit native to North America, simply vanished from collective memory. Cold hardy to zone 5, resistant to pests because of natural compounds in the bark, producing fruit that tastes like banana meets mango meets vanilla custard. Pawpaws outperform apples, peaches, and grapes in most nutritional measures. They are higher in protein, fat, and caloric density than most fruits, and contain significant vitamin C, magnesium, iron, copper, zinc, and manganese. Traditional use: fresh ripe pawpaws in September and October, frozen pulp for year-round smoothies and baking, and dried pawpaw leather as concentrated energy food. Pawpaws got abandoned commercially because they bruise easily and can't survive the industrial supply chain. That means the grocery store will never carry them. Think of it as the taste of tropical paradise that your Zone 5 backyard can actually produce, available only to people willing to grow their own. 10. Hawthorn, the heart tree with 1,000 years of evidence. Individual hawthorn trees have been documented at over 700 years old. Cretaceous species tolerate poor soils, drought, urban pollution, and hard winters. They begin producing fruit in 5 to 7 years and are essentially self-sufficient once established. Hawthorn berries, leaves, and flowers have been used in European and North American herbal medicine for centuries, specifically for heart and circulatory health. Multiple meta-analyses have confirmed that hawthorn extract improves cardiac output, reduces shortness of breath and fatigue, and lowers blood pressure in people with early-stage heart conditions. The active compounds are oligomeric proanthocyanidins and flavonoids that dilate blood vessels and have antioxidant effects on cardiac tissue. Traditional use: hawthorn berry jam and syrup through winter as a cardiovascular tonic food, and hawthorn flower tea in spring. Hawthorn got overlooked as a food tree because the berries are small and the thorns make commercial harvest impractical. But for the home grower willing to harvest with gloves, it is one of the most medically substantiated food trees you can plant. Think of it as the tree your heart has been waiting for, backed by a millennium of human observation. 11. Moringa, the miracle tree that feeds the world. Moringa oleifera grows faster than almost any food tree on Earth, reaching 15 feet in the first year under ideal conditions. Cut it back hard, and it regrows from the stump. Gram for gram, moringa leaves contain more vitamin C than oranges, more calcium than milk, more potassium than bananas, and more iron than spinach, with significant protein including all 9 essential amino acids. The World Health Organization has promoted moringa as a solution for malnutrition precisely because of this nutrient density. Modern research has confirmed anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and blood sugar-lowering effects. Traditional use: fresh leaves cooked like spinach, dried and powdered as a daily supplement added to food, and seed pods cooked like green beans. Moringa thrives in zones 9 through 11 and can be grown as a container plant in colder climates. For gardeners in appropriate climates, no food tree offers more nutritional return per year of growth. Think of it as the tree that could solve hunger if enough people planted it, starting with the corner of your own yard. 12. Black walnut, the slow investment with extraordinary returns. Juglans nigra begins producing serious nut crops around 10 to 15 years of age. But from that point, a mature black walnut lives for 100 to 200 years and produces 100 to 200 pounds of nuts in a good year. Families who planted them 2 generations ago are still harvesting today. Modern research has confirmed that black walnut hulls contain juglone with documented antibacterial, antifungal, and antiparasitic activity. The nuts are high in omega-3 fatty acids, gamma-tocopherol vitamin E, and elagitannins that support gut health. Regular walnut consumption has been linked in clinical research to improved cardiovascular markers and gut microbiome diversity. Traditional use: cracked walnuts as a calorie-dense, shelf-stable winter food, and black walnut hull tincture as a traditional anti-parasitic remedy. Black walnuts require planting because juglone from the roots inhibits some neighboring plants. Smart gardeners learn which plants are juglone tolerant and design accordingly. Think of it as the tree that demands patience in exchange for one of the most impressive multi-generational returns in all of home food production. 13. Chestnut, the bread tree of Europe. Before potatoes arrived in Europe, chestnuts fed entire populations through winter. Chestnut flour made the bread. Roasted chestnuts were the meal. Dried chestnuts stored through the coldest winters without refrigeration. Chinese chestnut and hybrid varieties are now widely available, blight-resistant, and represent one of the most underused food trees for American gardeners. A mature chestnut begins producing in 5 to 7 years and lives 40 to 80 years, producing hundreds of pounds of nuts annually. Chestnuts are nutritionally unique among tree nuts. Unlike walnuts and pecans, which are high in fat, chestnuts are primarily carbohydrate-based, naturally gluten-free, high in fiber, and rich in vitamin C, B vitamins, potassium, and magnesium. Traditional use: roasted fresh chestnuts in fall, chestnut flour for bread and porridge, and dried whole chestnuts rehydrated for soups and stews through winter. American chestnuts were devastated by blight in the early 20th century and never recovered in public consciousness. But excellent productive alternatives exist today. Think of it as the bread tree that fed half a continent for centuries, just waiting to be rediscovered. 14. Quince, the forgotten fruit that outperforms apple. Sidonia oblonga was revered throughout the ancient Mediterranean and Middle East. Romans made preserves from it. Persian households kept quince paste as medicinal food. Quince trees begin producing in 3 to 5 years, live 50 to 80 years, are cold-hardy to zone 5, self-fertile, and resistant to most of the pests and diseases that plague apples and pears. Modern research has found quince is high in vitamin C and copper. The flesh and seeds are rich in mucilaginous compounds that soothe the gut lining. Clinical research from Portugal documented that quince preparations reduce nausea and vomiting effectively. Traditional use: cooked quince paste as a preserve and digestive aid, quince jam from its naturally high pectin fruit, and quince poached in honey for sore throats and gut inflammation. Quince got abandoned when plant breeders focused all attention on raw-eating apples that required no cooking. Think of it as the fruit tree that rewards kitchen wisdom with something the grocery store simply cannot provide. 15. Serviceberry, the native superfood hiding in plain sight. Amelanchier species grow wild across North America from coast to coast, and most people walk right past them. Native American communities relied on serviceberries as one of the most important plant foods of the year. Berries were eaten fresh, dried, and mixed into pemmican, the original high-calorie survival food. Cold-hardy to zone 2 inches some species, beginning production in 2 to 3 years, requiring virtually no maintenance once established. Modern analysis confirms serviceberries have an antioxidant profile comparable to or exceeding blueberries. They are high in anthocyanins, vitamin C, iron, and copper. Their iron content is particularly notable for a fruit. Traditional use: fresh serviceberries straight from the bush in early summer as one of the first fruits of the season, dried berries as a concentrated winter food, and serviceberry jam as a preserved food through fall. Serviceberries got overlooked in commercial agriculture because the berries are small and ripen early. For the home gardener, that earliness is a feature. They produce food before anything else in the orchard. Think of it as the original North American superfruit your ancestors depended on, waiting to come back where it belongs. 16. Carob, the ancient tree that grows for 500 years. Ceratonia siliqua has been cultivated in the Mediterranean for at least 4,000 years. Individual trees are documented at over 500 years old and still producing. A carob planted today will produce for your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. The trees are drought-tolerant in the extreme, thrive in poor rocky soils, require no spraying, and produce reliably in warm climates. Carob pods contain roughly 50% natural sugars packaged with up to 40% dietary fiber by dry weight, which moderates glucose absorption. Carob is naturally gluten-free, high in calcium, iron, potassium, and magnesium. The condensed tannins have documented antimicrobial and antidiarrheal properties and were used in European hospitals for childhood diarrhea before pharmaceutical options became standard. Traditional use: carob pods eaten raw, carob flour in bread and pastry, and carob syrup as a sweetener and remedy for coughs. Carob got sidelined because it requires zones 9 through 11, and chocolate dominated the market it could have served. Think of it as the tree that outlasts houses, outlasts families, and keeps giving long after the person who planted it is gone. 17. Pecan, the colonial treasure worth writing into a will. And here is the one I teased at the beginning. Caria illinoinensis is native to North America and early American settlers understood its value so completely that mature pecan trees were literally listed in wills and passed down as significant property. Individual pecan trees regularly live 150 to 200 years. They begin producing serious crops around 10 to 12 years of age, then produce 100 to 200 pounds of nuts in productive years. Clinical trials have demonstrated that regular pecan consumption reduces LDL and total cholesterol while maintaining HDL levels. Pecans are rich in vitamin E, zinc, magnesium, and elagitannins that support gut health. A 2011 study in the Journal of Nutrition found incorporating pecans into a standard diet significantly improved cardiovascular risk markers. Traditional use: pecans cracked and eaten raw as a calorie-dense daily food, pecan oil for cooking, and ground pecan meal as a flour substitute. Pecans got restricted to the Deep South in public consciousness, but cold-hardy northern varieties now produce reliably in zones 5 and 6. Think of it as the tree your colonial ancestors knew was worth more than most crops, and smart enough to deserve a place in your yard right now. 18. Cornelian cherry, the ancient medicine tree nobody plants. Cornus mas produces small, bright red, intensely tart fruits that have been eaten and used medicinally across Europe and Western Asia for over 7,000 years. Seeds have been found at Neolithic archaeological sites, cold-hardy to Zone 4, beginning to fruit in 5 to 7 years, self-fertile, tolerating shade better than most fruit trees, and living 100 to 150 years. Modern research has found Cornelian cherry has one of the highest vitamin C contents of any temperate fruit, roughly 4 times that of oranges. Research from Eastern European universities has documented blood sugar lowering and liver protective effects from Cornelian cherry extracts. Traditional use: Cornelian cherry jam, rich in vitamin C through winter. Syrup used as a fever reducer and digestive tonic, and dried Cornelian cherries as a tart, concentrated food, similar to dried cranberries. Cornelian cherry got forgotten as sweeter fruits dominated the market, but its cold hardiness, longevity, and extraordinary nutritional density make it one of the most underrated food trees available. Think of it as the 7,000-year-old food tree that modern orchardists are only just beginning to remember. 19. Medlar, the medieval fruit that once fed Europe. Mespelis germanica was one of the most commonly cultivated fruit trees across medieval Europe. Every monastery garden, every estate, every village farmstead grew them. And then, by the 20th century, they had essentially vanished. Trees begin producing in 4 to 6 years, live 50 to 100 years, are cold-hardy to Zone 5, self-fertile, small enough for compact gardens, and require no spraying. Medlars are very high in tannins with documented antimicrobial and gut-toning effects, and rich in vitamin C and fiber. Traditional European medicine used them consistently for digestive complaints. Traditional use: Bledded medlars eaten straight from the skin in fall and early winter after frost softens them to a cinnamon applesauce consistency. Medlar jelly and cheese as a traditional preserve, and medlar wine as a fermented winter beverage. Medlars got abandoned when refrigeration and global shipping made year-round conventional fruit possible. A fruit that requires patience and cannot be eaten straight off the tree was not compatible with modern convenience culture. Think of it as the tree that asks something of you. A little patience, a little knowledge, and rewards you with something no supermarket can provide. 20. Heritage apple, the tree that built America. And here we are, at number 20, the one that ties everything together. Heritage apple trees planted from dormant bare root stock regularly produce for 50 to 100 years. There are verified heritage apple trees in New England, still producing after 150 years. The thousands of named Malus domestica varieties developed across the United States and Europe over 300 years represent one of the greatest living legacies of American agricultural history. Modern nutritional research confirms that quercetin, catechin, chlorogenic acid, and other polyphenols in apple skin have documented anti-inflammatory, cardiovascular protective, and gut microbiome supporting effects. Heritage varieties, which are smaller, more intensely flavored than commercial apples, often have significantly higher polyphenol concentrations. Traditional use: fresh apples in season, pressed cider as a daily beverage, dried apple rings as shelf-stable winter food, and apple cider vinegar, from fermented cider used across cultures for blood sugar and digestion. Heritage apples got crowded out by a handful of commercial varieties bred for appearance and shelf life. Most heritage varieties can only be grown, not purchased, and that is exactly the point. Here is what I want you to take away from this entire list. The trees that produce for decades, the ones that fed families for generations, the ones with the deepest nutritional value and the richest human history, are almost never the ones available at the grocery store. They are the ones you choose to plant. The ones that will outlast trends, outlast convenience culture, and outlast the idea that food is something you buy rather than something you grow. Every tree on this list asks you to think in decades rather than seasons, to invest in something that goes beyond a single harvest, to plant for your children's children the way the people before you planted for you. I've linked the specific nurseries and seed sources I trust in the description below. Source matters more than most people realize. Do not skip that step. Drop a comment and tell me which tree surprised you most. Are you team ancient fruit, team nut trees, or team medicinal food trees? I read every single comment. If you haven't subscribed to Evergreen Garden yet, hit that button right now and ring the bell so you never miss a video. We post every week and we are just getting started. See you in the next one.